Welcome to the STARR Coalition podcast. My name is Luke Kramer, Executive Director of the STARR Coalition, where we meet with movers and shakers within mental health and other areas to kind of talk about topics that affect all of us. And today we're very excited to have with us Wendy Thompson, who is the Area Director for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention here in the beautiful state of Arkansas. And so we're going to chat a little bit about AFSP, the work that's being done, and I want to start out. I've had the good fortune to be able to work with some folks on the national level of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Everyone I've ever spoken to on the national level has nothing but incredible things to say about the Arkansas chapter, and they say it with great sincerity. So why is Arkansas just looked at as maybe one of the top places? What are you doing so good, Wendy?
First, thank you so much for having me. And it just makes my heart full to hear that about our national office. I love and adore all of them up there. They're all so passionate and dedicated about suicide prevention. And I think that here, we have really truly been a grassroots movement here in Arkansas. And when we first started in 2008, we had the first Out of the Darkness walk. And before that time, there wasn't a lot going on as far as suicide prevention efforts. And so we just brought a lot of people, volunteers, survivors of suicide loss, mental health professionals, and anybody who really just cares about preventing suicide together. And it felt like a family then, and it feels like a family now. And every single year we add more people to our family. Right. As far as our walks, I'm meeting new people every day, and our walks is just one opportunity for us all to come together. And there is an immediate connection with people. Many who come to our walks are survivors of suicide loss. That's how I became part of AFSP. Mm-hmm. And it's just really powerful to know that you're not alone, because a lot of times when you lose somebody to suicide, you do feel alone. You don't really think that there are a lot of other people who've been through that experience. Mm-hmm. And so when we come together as a group at our walks and at some of our other events, there's this immediate connection. And I think that has just kind of rubbed off. And I think that our national office recognizes that. And it's not just in Arkansas. I really appreciate them saying that, but there are wonderful, passionate, dedicated volunteers across the whole country working hard to fight suicide and bring hope to those affected by suicide.
Which, you say that there was a personal reason why that you kind of moved in this area of advocacy. And that connection that happens between a lot of different people. This is a much different topic than being in a Rotary Club or being a part of an automobile club or something. There are some deep-rooted emotional things that occur to an individual or a loved one that brings a whole different approach to family when it comes to this type of these type of subjects, these things that are affecting people. And unfortunately, it was recently, and I hate to focus just on Arkansas because we have listeners that are going to be national too, but that suicide has leapt to the number one violent death category for Arkansans. Yes, and so, you're right. And so with... Obviously, it affects so many people. So can you give us maybe a couple of statistics about how many it affects nationwide and so forth? Give us an idea of how prevalent this is.
Well, in Arkansas, in 2017, 621 Arkansans died by suicide.
That's almost 2 a day.
And it is, it is. There are over 45,000 people across the country that die by suicide. It is the 10th leading cause of death in Arkansas, but it's, like as you said, the number one violent cause of death in Arkansas.
Obviously, that is a staggering statistic. and you think about how many people, family members and individuals are affected by that. So we see the walks as something that's very prevalent. Is that common with all the AFSPs nationwide? Is the Out of the Darkness Walk? Is that?
Yes, our Out of the Darkness Walk is our leading fundraiser, and we bring a lot of awareness with that event, support to survivors of loss, and it is also our number one fundraising event here in Arkansas and across the country. We have our community walks. We just had the one here in Little Rock last weekend. We have our campus walks. Those happen in high schools and colleges across the country. So
high schools as well?
Yes, we actually have Bryant High School here and Maumelle High School both have had a campus walk. And then we have 2 overnight walks that take place in different cities every year. So as a nonprofit, that's how we fund everything that we do. All of our educational programs and everything through our Out of the Darkness walks.
And you guys do a lot of educational programs. I know that you have different levels of training. Can you explain some of that? Because I would encourage all organizations, I don't care what you do, whether you work at a supermarket or retail or whatever, that you go through this training, because there are some incredible skills that you could learn to intervene with someone that you love that may be at that point. But tell us about the trainings you guys offer, because they're amazing.
Yes, we have many wonderful programs. And like you said, everybody really should know how to talk to somebody who may be in crisis. We know that we don't have enough mental health professionals out there for the need. So it's important that everybody understand how to ask those right questions and how to help somebody that they care about and get them the help they need. So we have programs such as our More Than Sad High School film that is for high school students, parents, and administrators and teachers. And that is a wonderful 28-minute film that students watch, and then we have discussion after. It talks about some of the common things that teens go through and what to watch for, how to talk to each other, how to talk to your friends, and how to get them the help that they need if they're struggling. We also have a wonderful program called It's Real. It's our college film, and this is a program that it follows 6 students in that transition from high school to college, which often can be a really difficult time. And it helps them, it follows 6 students who actually had mental health struggles and how they got help on campus and where they got help on campus. That's a great film. We have provided that film to every high school, private and public school in the state of Arkansas with some of the funds that we've raised through our walk. We have another great program that's good for community groups. Really, it's good for any organization that is interested in learning about suicide prevention, and that one is called Talk Saves Lives. It's an hour-long program. So those are some basic three basic programs that we have, and then we have quite a few other programs that we support, and we have trainers. We pay to get people trained, and then they go out and train. One of them is called Safe Talk. We've done over 40 Safe Talks in the state of Arkansas. Another one is called Assist. And all of these programs really teach people how to help somebody, what the warning signs are, what kinds of questions to ask, and then how to get them to help, professional help or whatever that person needs. And so these are really important prevention programs. In addition to those, we have, you can go to our website, afsp.org, to see all of our programs. We have some additional clinician trainings, suicide bereavement clinician training that we offer. We have support group facilitator trainings. So we have quite a lengthy list of wonderful programs that we offer.
So I want to move to a little bit of a different subject. I think there's a story recently, a 12-year-old had completed suicide. We are seeing kids younger and younger that are taking their own lives, and obviously you're doing stuff to reach high school kids. I mean, when should we start a conversation about this? I mean, at what point do we start talking to our children? I've got a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old. I mean, and we have talked about this. Right. And then there are 13 Reasons and all these other television shows that are portraying it in different ways. But what do we say as a parent? And when do we start this conversation?
Well, I think it's really important that you speak to your children at an age-appropriate level. Mm-hmm. So obviously you're going to talk to a younger child, an 8, 9, 10-year-old, different than you're going to talk to a 16, 17, 18-year-old. And I would really encourage parents to talk about resilience and really focus on some coping skills and how to get through some difficult things at that younger age, because they aren't going to understand in the same way that an older child is going to understand. So as a parent, you need to recognize, the developmental stage of your child, but I think it's important at a young age that we start talking to children about the signs to watch for if they're feeling down. You're going to use different language than you would with an older child, and how to handle that. If your friends are not being nice, how do you deal with that? And then as they get older, obviously, you're going to be able to talk more about depression and some of these other mental health issues.
Are there some prevalent root causes? We do see a lot of veterans that are unfortunately have completed suicide. We have people that struggle with mental illness. Statistically, about 85% of individuals who do. I'm not sure if to try to attempt or complete suicide, and I want to talk about language too in a minute, that do have a diagnosable mental illness. Does there seem to be one root cause over another that tends to bubble up when you talk about this?
There are a lot of different risk factors, but we wish we could say, oh, well, this happened, so this leads to suicide. And unfortunately, it's not that simple.
Right.
Suicide is very complex, and we like to think of it, there's a lot of different factors that can come into play. And when somebody may be feeling vulnerable and all of those factors kind of converge at one moment, then people can be more at risk at that point. So unfortunately, there is no easy, if we could fix this, then it would stop suicide. There are a lot of different things that we need to look at.
Yeah, kind of going back to language, it's amazing. I feel comfortable talking about mental illness and mental health and brain health, and even that language is always evolving. And I find it difficult for me to have a conversation with people that are a part of the suicide prevention world, because I don't know if I'm fully up to date of maybe how and language matters. Language matters. When we talk about sensitive topics, language matters. So what are we saying now that can allow us to be able to approach suicide is not this scary monster or something that should not be talked about, that needs to be kept in the darkness, right? I mean, you guys are bringing it out of the darkness here. But what are some ways that we can talk about it, and even specific language we can use to help us communicate better?
Well, one thing I know, and you can go again to our website, AFSP.org, to look at all the safe messaging guidelines. We like to share this information with the media, who often report on suicide, because it is important and language does matter. One thing that we're trying to get away from, we don't want to say the word commit. You want to say died by suicide.
Well, someone mentioned passing by suicide. I mean that there are some other
rather than say the word commit. And then we also don't want to, if you're talking about a loss, it's important for the survivor, for themselves to be safe. And so you don't want to talk in graphic details a lot of times, about the loss of your loved one and how they died. And so that's really important as well. And we know there is a such thing as contagion. So it's really important that not only are we speaking safely for ourselves, but up for everybody out there that's listening, because there may be vulnerable people out there that hear something and then they respond to that. So safe messaging is really, really key and really important.
One of the takeaways that I've had working with AFSP National is sometimes the abruptness of how you approach someone who you think may be at a place where they could take their own life. So let's say we have a loved one and we feel that they're in a depressive state, and you're worried about the fact that they may do that. How do you approach someone?
Well, some of our trainings that I mentioned, Safe Talk and Assist, actually go into that really in detail, and there's some role playing, because it's a hard thing to say a lot of times. Even the word suicide for people, it's getting better, but there was a time that people just wouldn't say that word. But it's important that we do ask directly. If you have, and there's not necessarily a long list of things like, oh, if they're acting like this, this, and this, there's not this checklist. If you have a feeling as a friend that something just seems off with that person, whatever it is, you just have that, feeling, it's okay for you at that point to say, hey, you know what, I've noticed that you're not yourself lately, or I notice you've been coming in late, or you're not going out with us after work like you used to do. Are you okay? Is everything okay? There is nothing wrong with saying, are you thinking about taking your life? Are you thinking about suicide? We need to be able to be direct with people, and there's this idea that if you ask somebody that question, that's going to put that idea in their mind, and that's just not true. That is a myth. And so the more direct you are with somebody, the better. Now, you also have to be prepared if they say yes. Right.
I mean, and then that sets off a whole other...
and that is one reason that people are afraid. They're like, oh gosh, what if they say yes? Then what do I do? Well, that's why it's really important to, again, get some of this training so that you're comfortable. You're comfortable asking those questions, and you're comfortable getting the answer, and you know what to do. You know how to get them to help. We have the Lifeline number, the 800-273-8255 number. Mm-hmm. It's important that everybody has that phone number in their pocket.
And you can also text.
Yes, 741-741. Right. And have that information on you all the time so that you have it if you need it. If you have somebody that may be in crisis and you want to try to help them, but they're nervous, they don't want to reach out for whatever reason, you can get on the phone with them and call. Or you can say, hey, you know what, let's get an appointment for you at a therapist and I'll go with you. I'll make sure that you're not alone. Mm-hmm. I'm here with you. So just ask the question, don't be afraid, and then know what to do and how to respond.
It's so interesting because they have mental health first aid.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Right? And then you have CPR, right? If someone, we'll just say with CPR, if someone were to start having chest pains, I would know what to do. And I would be on the phone immediately with 911, and I would be starting chest compressions or whatever I needed to do at that point. We all know of chest compressions and breaths and so forth. It's just, and then mental health first aid, not as many people know about it, but they do teach you real techniques that you need to know in a mental health crisis of what you can do to help that individual. Suicide prevention should be in the same category as CPR.
Absolutely.
Because we don't know what to do.
Right. We should think of it the same way we think of any other health condition, and treat it that way. And we're getting there. I'm hopeful. I've seen such positive change in this state and across the country. So we've raised the awareness. We're talking about it. We need to get more people educated so they know how to have that conversation. And we need people who are struggling to not be afraid to reach out, to let them know that there's help for them. With, like I mentioned earlier, the Lifeline number, it's available 24 hours a day. And you can call or the text line. So people need to know that they can reach out.
There are resources, yeah.
And talk to your friends, talk to your loved ones. I promise you, they want to help you. If they know that you're struggling, they want to know, and they're going to be there to get you help, to help you get the help that you need.
I think that someone once said that if everyone was looking out for everyone, then everyone is looking out for you.
Yes.
And that you would. I mean, if your best friend were to call you and say, you know what, there's something going on and I'm done,
right,
that you would want them to call you.
Absolutely.
And so knowing that you would be there for someone should be enough to give you the, being comfortable enough to reach out at that moment that you need,
right,
because others would want you to do that.
Right.
And that's hard. That's hard
Yes.
for people. And mostly if you're at that moment, if you're at that place, it becomes very difficult, I think. So, obviously we talk about early intervention in mental health and some other things. If there's ways that we can begin a conversation very early,
Right.
or at least the same thing we say to our children, look, if you ever get in a situation where you may be uncomfortable, or that maybe you drink one night and you should, call me and we will do what we can to help you no matter what. People have to be comfortable with that.
That's right.
And I appreciate you continuing to push the conversation.
Thank you.
It matters. So if people want to get involved with you, with AFSP, what should they do?
You can go to the website, afsp.org. If you just are in Arkansas and you want to become a volunteer, you can go to afsp.org/Arkansas. There is a volunteer application there. You can fill that out, and then one of our our volunteer coordinator will reach out to you. We have a lot of different ways, whether it's through our Out of the Darkness walks and fundraising, or with our programs. We have a survivor outreach program. So there are many different ways. We also advocate for suicide prevention public policies. So there's, however you want to get involved, there's a way for you to get involved. So just reach out and we will get in touch with you.
Because I guess everybody has their strengths.
Yes.
And I'm sure that you will plug them in where they need to be, right? Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, it does give me a sense of pride when I talk to people about AFSP, and they do have such incredible things to say about you and the organization here in Arkansas. And you're right. I've met people from the U.S. I got to spend time with John Madigan recently, just a couple of weeks ago, and what a passionate individual.
Yes.
He heads up a lot of their policy and stuff on the national level. So it is a phenomenal organization that is opening the doors to conversation and information that needs to happen. And what you've done in 10 years here is incredible. And I can only imagine where we'll be 10 years from now. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for talking to us. So you've been listening to the STARR Coalition podcast. We've been here with Wendy Thompson, who is the area director of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Thank you again for being here. If you want to learn more about some other subjects, visit us at www.thestarr, with 2 R's.org, and we will try to keep you up to date with things that are happening within mental health and suicide prevention and all the things that we need to know to help take care of each other and those around us. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll talk to you soon.